the timeless past.
Chickamauga, the River of Death. Our first stop is arguably the most paranormally active of all Civil War sites, Chickamauga National Military Park in North Georgia. The battle fought here from September 18th to the 20th, 1863, was the second bloodiest of the war, with only Gettysburg seeing more carnage. The scale of it is almost impossible to wrap your head around. Nearly 35,000 casualties in just 3 days. The Confederate Army technically won, but the victory was so costly it crippled their army in the West. Walking these fields, you can't help but feel it. There's a solemn quiet, a profound sadness that clings to the monuments and the ancient trees. After the battle, Union dead were often left where they fell for weeks before being buried in shallow, unmarked graves all across the land. It's no wonder, then, that tales of restless spirits began almost right away. And of all the stories to come out of this blood-soaked ground, none is more infamous or more terrifying than the legend of Old Green Eyes. The legend of Old Green Eyes. The story of Old Green Eyes is woven deep into Chickamauga's folklore. The details change depending on who's telling the story, but they all share a core of pure nightmare fuel. Some say he's the ghost of a Confederate soldier, decapitated by a cannonball, who wanders the fields at night, his disembodied, glowing green eyes searching for his lost body. Another, more monstrous version describes a creature that's half man, half beast, with long, stringy hair, fangs, and those same piercing, luminous eyes. Some even speculate this version has roots in older Native American legends, though that connection is hazy. Whatever it is, the sightings are chillingly consistent. They almost always happen at night, especially in the thick fog that settles over the battlefield. The area around Snodgrass Hill, site of some of the most desperate fighting, is a major hotspot. This is where Union forces under General George Thomas made their last stand, holding back wave after wave of Confederate assaults. The dead and wounded were piled high, and the sounds of their suffering must have echoed through these woods for hours. But maybe the most compelling account of Old Green Eyes comes not from a tourist, but from a man who knew the park better than anyone, the late Edward Tinney, the park's longtime chief historian. In 1976, while walking along a park road near dawn, Tinney saw a figure emerge from the fog. As it passed, he noticed its long, almost woman-like hair. Then, it turned to look at him. The eyes. I'll never forget those eyes, Tinney recalled. They were glaring, almost greenish-orange in color, flashing like some sort of wild animal. The teeth were long and pointed like fangs. Frozen in fear, Tinney could only watch as a car's headlights cut through the fog, and the creature vanished right before his eyes. That account, from a credible historian and 31-year park veteran, gives the legend some serious, terrifying weight. It pulls it from the world of campfire tales and makes it feel much more real. As you walk the trails of Snodgrass Hill at dusk with the shadows getting longer and the woods growing quiet, it's not hard to imagine a pair of glowing green eyes watching from the darkness, a lonely, terrifying sentinel of the battlefield's undying agony. The phantom cries of Snodgrass Hill and the lady in white Old Green Eyes isn't the only spirit said to haunt the slaughter ground of Snodgrass Hill. The sheer amount of pain and terror concentrated in this one spot seems to have left multiple spiritual imprints. Visitors and paranormal investigators often report hearing phantom gunshots, the disembodied shouts of unseen officers, and most disturbingly, faint moans and cries for help. These sounds are so common, they're almost part of the battlefield's natural soundscape, a residual psychic recording of the battle's final desperate hours. But it's not just soldiers making all that noise. A quieter, more sorrowful figure is also said to walk these grounds. The Lady in White. Like Old Green Eyes, her story is one of loss, but hers is a tragic haunting, not a terrifying one. She's believed to be the spirit of a bride or sweetheart of a soldier who died here. Dressed in a white gown, she's seen gliding silently among the monuments and graves, forever searching the field for her lost love. Her presence is often tied to feelings of deep sadness and longing. She isn't scary. She's a heartbreaking symbol of the civilian grief that rippled out from this epicenter of violence. The Snodgrass cabin, which was used as a Union field hospital, is a focal point for her sightings. Thousands of wounded men were treated in and around this simple log cabin. The ground was soaked with blood, the air thick with the screams of the dying. It is easy to see why such an emotionally charged place would become a magnet for paranormal energy. Some visitors feel an overwhelming sadness just stepping inside the cabin. Others have seen a faint, luminous figure near the windows, as if she's still waiting for her soldier to return from the fight. Her endless, mournful search is a poignant reminder that the casualties of war aren't just the soldiers who fall, but also the loved ones they leave behind. The Brotherton cabin and the Bloody Kelly house moving from the desperate defense on Snodgrass Hill, we come to a place that marks the battle's breaking point. The Brotherton cabin. It was right here, in the fields around this humble home, that a fatal gap opened in the Union line. Confederate General Longstreet's forces poured through the mistake, shattering the Federal Army and sending them into a full retreat. This was the moment that sealed the Confederate victory at Chickamauga. The Brotherton cabin, like so many other buildings on the battlefield, is now considered a paranormal hotspot. Investigators who come here find their gear going haywire and report drastic unexplained drops in temperature. More than that, visitors often talk about an oppressive feeling of dread and failure that hangs in the air, a spiritual echo of the Union Army's collapse. Standing here, you can almost feel the panic and confusion of that moment. And just as the Brotherton cabin represents the turning point, the Kelly house, on the northern end of the field, represents the battle's gruesome reality. This simple farmhouse was caught directly in the crossfire. It was quickly taken over as a field hospital, and the scenes inside were horrific. Wounded from both sides were laid shoulder to shoulder on the floors and porches. Overwhelmed surgeons performed countless amputations with little more than whiskey for anesthesia. The house was shelled, blood-soaked, and filled with the constant sound of human suffering. Today, the Kelly house is considered one of the most active locations in the park. Rangers and visitors have seen apparitions of soldiers in uniform peering from the windows or standing silently on the porch. The sounds of moaning and whispered prayers are frequently heard by those who stand quietly and listen. It's a place where the pain of the past feels palpably present, a building that seems to have absorbed so much trauma that it just keeps replaying the darkest moments of its history. We've only just begun our journey into Appalachia's dark past. The stories from Chickamauga alone are a powerful reminder of how history and tragedy can create legends that last for centuries. If you've ever had an experience at a historical site that you couldn't explain, let me know in the comments below. I read every one. And if you find this exploration of history and folklore as fascinating as I do, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Our next stop takes us deeper into the mountains, to a place where the echoes of battle still ring through the hills. Droop Mountain, West Virginia's last stand. Leaving the haunted woods of Georgia, our journey takes us north into the rugged mountains of Pocahontas County, West Virginia, to Droop Mountain Battlefield State Park. On November 6, 1863, this was the site of one of the last major Civil War battles in the brand-new state of West Virginia. The Battle of Droop Mountain was fierce. A Union force under General William W. Averill attacked a smaller Confederate brigade led by General John Echols. The Confederates held the high ground, using the mountain's natural defenses to fend off the attack for most of the day. But by the afternoon, they were simply overwhelmed by superior numbers and forced to retreat. The battle was a Union victory, but it left nearly 400 men killed or wounded, their blood seeping into the rocky Appalachian soil. Today, the battlefield is a place of solemn beauty, with a lookout tower offering incredible views. But for more than a century, Visitors have reported that the soldiers who died here never really left. The park has earned a reputation as one of West Virginia's most haunted spots, a place where the past feels uncomfortably close. The Headless Horseman and Phantom Armies. The hauntings at Droop Mountain are as varied as they are unnerving. People have reported everything from glowing orbs of light floating through the trees to the sudden crack of phantom cannon fire echoing across the mountaintop. One of the most persistent and frightening legends is that of a headless soldier, often seen on horseback, an Appalachian headless horseman, thought to be the ghost of a Confederate who met a grisly end. One of the earliest documented sightings was back in 1920. A retired logger named Edgar Walton was camping near a small cemetery for Confederate soldiers. As he sat by his fire, he heard leaves rustling and looked up to see the headless ghost of a soldier floating silently past his campsite before vanishing into the dark. That chilling story has been told in different ways for decades. Others have just seen a headless figure standing among the trees, a silent and unnerving watchman. Beyond that single terrifying ghost, many witnesses have reported seeing entire phantom armies. Apparitions of soldiers in full uniform are seen marching in formation or standing guard, as if still carrying out their duties. A park ranger on a night shift once saw what he thought was a historical reenactor, only for the figure to vanish into thin air as he got closer. These ghosts appear solid one moment and are gone the next, leaving behind nothing but a sudden, icy chill. People have heard the sharp bark of an unseen officer's commands and the mournful sound of a bugle on the wind, as if the battle is caught in a temporal loop, forever replaying the violent events of that November day. Shiloh, a name that means peace, a place that knows none. Our path now leads us west, to the border of Tennessee and Mississippi, to a place whose name, Shiloh, is Hebrew for place of peace. But for 2 days in April of 1862, this land was the furthest thing from peaceful. It was the site of one of the earliest and most shockingly brutal battles of the entire war. Shiloh was a horrific wake-up call for the nation. In just 2 days, nearly 24,000 men were killed, wounded, or went missing, more casualties than in all of America's previous wars combined. A surprise Confederate assault caught the Union Army completely off guard. The fighting was chaotic and savage, centered around landmarks that earned infamous names. The Hornet's Nest, where Union soldiers held out for hours against impossible odds, and the Bloody Pond. The sheer trauma inflicted on this land was immense. More than 3,500 of the dead are buried here in Shiloh National Military Park, many in unmarked mass graves. That alone makes the park a prime location for restless spirits. The ground itself feels saturated with sorrow, and visitors frequently report strange experiences that suggest the echoes of 1862 have never really faded. The Bloody Pond and the Phantom Drummer Boy. At the heart of Shiloh's ghostly lore is the infamous Bloody Pond. During and after the battle, this small body of water was a desperate refuge for the wounded and dying from both armies. They crawled to its banks to drink or wash their wounds, and so many did so that the water was reportedly stained bright red. The legend today claims that every now and then the pond inexplicably turns red again, a paranormal reenactment of the horror that happened there. Now, park rangers will tell you it is just a type of red algae that blooms in the heat, but the folklore is a lot more chilling. But the hauntings aren't just at the pond. The entire park is known for strange sounds. Visitors often report hearing phantom drum beats, as if a spectral drummer boy is still sounding out commands. The echoes of ghostly gunfire and the disembodied cries of men in agony are also frequently heard, especially around the Hornet's Nest, where the fighting was fiercest. Apparitions are also common. Shadowy, soldier-like figures have been seen at night in Duncan Field, appearing to reenact the battle in total silence. Near the peach orchard, the figure of a young boy in period clothing has been seen, along with a soldier who appears to be wounded, wandering slowly before vanishing. Even the replica of the Shiloh Church, the simple log cabin that gave the battlefield its name, is said to be haunted. Visitors have been touched by unseen hands or felt an unnerving sense of being watched while inside the empty building. All these stories paint a picture of a battlefield that is still very much alive with the spirits of those who fell, forever trapped in the final moments of their lives. Section 4. The Forgotten Haunts. Fox's Gap and Crockett's Cove. While major battlefields like Chickamauga and Shiloh get most of the attention, the haunted history of Appalachia is also hidden in smaller, more intimate places, where the brutality of the war was just as real but far more personal. Our final stops take us to two such places. First, we head to South Mountain in Maryland. Here, at a place called Fox's Gap, a brutal part of the Battle of South Mountain was fought on September 14, 1862. The fighting centered on the small farm of Daniel Wise. His home was used as a hospital and morgue, and his fields became a makeshift cemetery. Digging graves in the rocky soil was grim, exhausting work. According to local legend, a group of exhausted Union soldiers took a horrifying shortcut. They gathered the bodies of 58 Confederate soldiers and threw them down Daniel Wise's well, contaminating his water and turning it into a mass grave. This is a local legend, not a historically confirmed fact, but it is a story that just one die. Today, people who visit the area of the old Wise farm claim to hear strange sounds coming from the spot where the well once was. The sickening thud of bodies hitting the bottom, a ghostly replay of that terrible act. Our last stop is in the quiet hills of southwest Virginia, in a place called Crockett's Cove. A cavalry battle was fought here on May 10, 1864, and a small country church was used as a field hospital. But the ghost story from Crockett's Cove isn't one of phantom armies, but of a single lonely spirit. Local lore tells of a wounded Union soldier who was seen staggering out of the woods after the battle, calling for help. But whenever locals approached him, he would mysteriously vanish. This spectral soldier has been seen numerous times over the years by hunters and explorers in the cove. He always appears wounded, always calls for help, and always disappears. He is the forgotten soldier, left behind, whose spirit is still trying to complete its final journey home. From the blood-soaked River of Death at Chickamauga to the phantom cries on Droop Mountain, from the eerie silence of the Bloody Pond to the desecrated well at Fox's Gap, the battlefields of Appalachia hold their stories close. These are more than just historical sites. They are memorials, cemeteries, and, for many, places where the veil between the past and present feels incredibly thin. The legends of Old Green Eyes, the Lady in White, and the countless spectral soldiers are more than just ghost stories. They're a vital part of Appalachian folklore, a way for communities to process the trauma of a war that tore their own families apart. These tales ensure that the profound human cost of the conflict is never just a statistic in a history book. They give a voice to the voiceless dead. Walking these hallowed grounds requires respect. We stand on the final resting places of thousands. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, you can't deny the powerful energy that lingers here, a mixture of sorrow, tragedy, and sacrifice. The air is heavy with history. So what do you think? Is it just the weight of history we feel in these places? Or is it something more? Do the spirits of those who fell here truly linger, waiting for a peace that even after all this time still hasn't come? Thank you for joining me on this journey into Appalachia's dark past. If you have stories from your own local folklore, I'd love to hear them. Share them in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more explorations into the mysterious and the unknown.